When we last left off about giants, you and your party were cold, hungry, and surrounded by yetis and buried in the snow, and well, it's been about a month and some change. How's that been going for you? I'd really like to know. I know you guys had stumbled back upon Rohit, and well, we're getting ahead of ourselves. So let's jump back in with Seasons of Giants, Part 2. Now, at the start, I'd like to give you guys a roadmap, what to expect. Obviously, up next is the Fire Giant, following them Cloud, then Storm, and then lastly, we're going to be transitioning to the Magpie Original Thought. Obviously, as in most things I do, there's a little bit of inspiration from Monarch's Factory, so don't be too surprised when that catches you off guard. And after that, I might even have a little bit of the video in which I want to talk about why size matters for large and up creatures. So let's sit back down. As you guys are piled up in the snow, freezing, your bare temperatures huddled up against each other, and you sit there with Rohit in his frost giant form. You see his muscles much more pronounced, beard more fleshed out, but ultimately still the gentle giant you guys had met previously. He would be quite inquisitive to know how you guys have been doing, what you guys have been up to, and this would allow you guys the opportunity to kind of play catch-up, touch base on plot points, character growth, again, give you that NPC you can touch base with. Again, remember from last time that we're talking about using this FNGM's zipper method to kind of pivot back and forth between this story and whatever your main plot is. Whenever the question's eventually asked in turn what's going on with Rohit, he would let you guys know he's actually searching for his father. He's growing and becoming stronger and all of this, but communication with his father has gone dark, and he's kind of worried. He's gone on this adventure to try and reach the lands in which he knows his father resides. He knows he's up north in the ice, working on some Inferno engine. Here's where I'm going to tether this to some of the other things I've created. What I want his father to be working on is an engine or war weapon of some kind that uses Neo Inferno as its core, and that, for those of you who don't know, is my version of Fireball. One of the first videos on the channel I ever made was recreating Fireball in 3 different phases and allowing that to show development and growth in spellcasting, kind of some stuff I touched on in my spellcasting video as well. I just want to relate it and ground it into the world. As you guys go and adventure with Rohit to accomplish A, what your party needs to, and B, help him find his father, that's where we'll put a pin in it and go over the cert phase. So in here we'll be fanning the flames. After Giant has spent its life nourishing its mind as a stone giant, strengthening its physique as a frost giant, the next item it must complete in its giant phase is a phase of creation and purpose, wanting to put skills and power of its existence really to the test. This is where the will of fire comes to life. Fire giants will often find themselves in service of powerful warlords, powerful celestials, or fiends, wanting not necessarily a master to serve, but someone's ambition to create and bring to life. Fire giant weapons can sometimes be master-crafted works, wonders that can often put what the dwarves make to shame. They'd be imbued naturally with the fire in the metal itself. I imagine you could even chant it additionally with something else, because that fire property is just innate to the craftsmanship of the weapon. Fire giants are able to build castles throughout their lives, being able to pivot each skill, smithing, architecture, equipment. This is the phase of their life where they're consuming all skills. They have a beginner's mindset with everything, wanting to push and grow and prove themselves. Realistically, this is the Fire Giant's career phase. It's where the engine of working for creation and war transition ends whenever their will of fire begins to burn out, and this is ultimately what's happening with Rohit's father. Some Fire Giants spend an eternity in the cert phase, possibly even their whole lives, never losing that spark, that fire to continue to work and create, whether it be art, war, eventual realization dawns upon many of them, however, that they want to sit down and relax somewhere. As you guys journey through, fighting off Yeti, rival frost giants, and eventually find Rohit's father, I imagine he would have the embers kind of died down. If you guys remember whenever we talked about the Azure, I flavored them in which you would see their life essence be determined by the fire producing from their body. If the glow of their eyes and their skin and their beards go out, similar to Charmander in Pokemon, it probably means they're dead. Well, I imagine in some ways a fire giant would similarly emote itself. It would show off itself in a very unique kind of way, to where you guys would eventually find Rohit's father and he would be dwindling, diminished. His fire engine's there, he just may not care about it anymore. He's tired. I imagine you see him as sickly and sorrowful, and he just wants a break. And this is where you'd be able to pivot, and you see two giants essentially find their next phase together. Rohit, not a creature of war and battle, doesn't need a whole lot of time in the frost giant phase. He's gotten plenty strong, he's gotten his experience under his belt, he's ready to put his mind to the test, that skill. He wants to help his father carry on the legacy of his father's creation. He feels the fire burning in him to see this project through so his father can sit down. And his father sitting down transitions him from fire up to the clouds. So the free stage of a giant's life is where they just relax. Cloud giants are the most relaxed state of giants. They likely have lived many centuries at this point, honing their body, mind, spirit, craft, and after such an eventful phase as a fire giant, they just kind of grow tired of the world and tired of constantly training and exerting themselves and all of this kind of stuff, and they just kind of want to enjoy the fruits of their labor. Whether it's gold, pleasure, reading books, relaxing, a return to philosophy of a stone giant, whatever it may be. Many hide themselves away in magical cloud fortresses up in the sky, hiding away with servants and wealth, just fading into the sky to be forgotten about entirely by the world until maybe an adventurer stumbles upon them somehow. Some of these giants might send out contracts or summons to adventurers to deal with predators or threats in the sky, like rocks, dragons, or sky pirates. This would give a unique opportunity for your party to network with powerful allies, and they'd have to be a relatively sensible or completely irrational party to take up a battle in the sky. Now, you might be asking yourself, where do we go from here story-wise? And I think that's a fair point. Obviously, I don't think your party wants to live up in the skies and live with Rohit's dad, maybe just crash in his castle as city guard, but maybe you're looking for a way to be out of the eyes of your BBG. Maybe this is where the zipper begins to tighten in together. Not just tooth to tooth, but maybe this is where they start really biting into one another. Maybe your party needs a base of operations, and Rohit's dad's grateful that you've helped him establish where to spend his time, where to spend his money. Cloud giants can really go into whatever realm they want, political systems, social games, mental challenges, any of it just to stay engaged, but not physically, not dealing with bloodshed. He might write, he might create art, he might be a philosopher, again, he may get into politics, any number of things, but his expression of gratitude for you all, for not only where you've helped his son now several times, but where you've also now helped him also bring himself to the next step. Maybe his castle's the safe place, because maybe your BBEG's more than willing to send an assassin to a tavern, but what assassin's gonna come chase you in the skies? As your party uses the base of operations as a safe place to sleep, continuing on whatever measure and metric they need to, I would say this is the first time in the story you may pivot away from Rohit and his family as your main contact points. It gets a little bit murky because at this point I would want it to involve that other story that we're not defining as much in my example, but I'll still lay the railroad down. I'll just leave it to you to finish putting in the tracks. As you enter the Ryther phase, Storm Giant, I would guess that maybe Rohit's father beckons you all, asking you for aid, asking you for help, an old friend of his who long since entered the Ryther phase. Perhaps they're in a bind, perhaps they're the target of your BBEG, perhaps there's some item that you need and they might know where it's at. You can make the story flow and combine whichever way seems most naturally to you. Nonetheless, with the Ryther phase, few giants ever regain the call to action. Most of them spend their lives as fire giants, working away, or cloud giants, just relaxing until they pass away. However, some are spoken to by a higher power, their divinity, Hecton, the god of strength, giants, and power. Storm giants are gifted with a sliver of raw divinity igniting inside them, as near a sorcerer-like power begins to just burn inside them. Mastery over a domain of lightning, they can now hold their own station as a reality guardian, someone who wants to keep the world from ending, a figure much like sphinxes or other powerful celestials who protect the highest tier artifacts, arcane secrets, sealed demons, or elder gods. They're generally just glued in to this guardian position. I don't imagine there being many, and for the most part, I imagine them being largely invested in the good side of the world, or at least what pushes Hecton's agenda. Obviously, I can't go just dropping one of my gods and expecting you guys to know about him, but at the very least for me, the god of the giants is a very powerful, very staunch, noble figure, an honorable figure, I guess is more accurate. However, maybe your giants sway a bit more in the evil nature, the crush humans and eat them. It tends to be pretty boring to me, so that's why I don't particularly lean towards them that way at the very least, but if you can make it work for you, knock yourself out. So, here's where we'll take another break. I know last time I spoke on ogres, trolls, onis, all of the other variants, but right now I'd like to talk a bit in a general gamey sense about them. Obviously, for any of these, all the way from stone to now storm, they're all elementally tied and tethered. I think that's pretty straight through just any giants you may run across. And I think as you were to rework their stat blocks and think over all of this, I would want you to kind of think of them much more in their element. Don't just have it do a little bit of fire damage when it whacks something. Give it mastery over fire. Show how a fire giant can burn an inferno underneath them to help them move quicker. Show a storm giant can move and hurl lightning and maybe can do short-range teleportation as he travels through the arc of lightning. Stone giants hardening their skin, building structures through what I'd say would be close to earthbending, just the manipulation of the ground beneath them. Really allow them to attune themselves with their element. It's not a learned skill, it's a born skill. It's something that is just so innate to that stage of life. Additionally, something I really want to touch on, and this one I'm gonna pass the ball a little bit off. Size matters with creatures. I don't care if it's giants, I don't care if it's dragons or boulets or titans or anything. Size matters because these are very physical creatures, and to really sell just the fear factor of them, you have to have that element there. You have to help paint that vividly for whomever may cross paths with these creatures. Where I pass the ball is in the Welsh GM's video on giants. He does an exceptional job. He actually does an exceptional job in any of his bestiary videos covering how creatures interact with the environment, so I'd highly recommend check them all out. However, in particular in his giant video, I think he does an exceptional job talking about how giants can interact. They can grab a cart or a piece of a building and lodge it, and when they stumble back they may fall into a church. All these things that they have to worry about, using trees as clubs, hurling rocks or maybe animals at you, using party members as improvised weapons. All of these are very picturesque movie moments that help really ground a character in an experience. It helps paint the move more than I swing with my club or axe or sword. Yeah, cool, I get it, everyone does. But as the DM, the GM, whomever you may be, it really helps sell that narrative. I know there's plenty of resources out there for fighting bigger monsters, and when I eventually get around to designing some Gigantes, you'll start to see me do a bit more of a deep dive in interacting with truly kaiju-sized creatures. However, for now, in the time being, go watch Welsh Jam's video on giants, leave him a comment, tell him Magpie sent you, and just take in the knowledge, take in the wisdom, learn, grow. With that, I hope I didn't keep you guys too long, but I'd really like you guys to sink in and understand the Magpie creation of this. So, as I mentioned, Monarch's Factory has so much to do with how I just interpret and think about things creatively these days, and I ain't got no complaints about it. I wish they uploaded more so I could take in more, but until then, I just kind of gotta fester and think on what I like. And they have a phenomenal video on giants, what they do with them, how they'd want to play them. And with that, the thing that stuck out to me is making giants real giants. And we're not talking about something the size of a 2-story building. No, we are talking about something that would look Godzilla in the eyes. We are talking about something truly colossal. And with that, I must introduce you to the Magpie concept of world anchors and world breakers. Beyond the few that ever ascend to the title of Storm Giant, or even fewer than 5 ever given the title or position to ascend to a Gigant. 4 hold the positions of the corners of the world. The world anchors represent the cardinal directions, the last holding the position of World Breaker. A world anchor is a guardian of stability of the realms. Holding their position, they attain mastery of their given element: fire, lightning, cold, water, air, and earth. They take their stations, forming the boundaries of the realm of the world itself. Seemingly impossibly at the end of reality in this way, they're able to sustain themselves in almost a metaphysical pocket dimension, whether it be fairy, hell, the divine curtain, Technotron's realm, order, chaos, good, evil, any of that. They help anchor that reality together. They keep many arcane true names and laws of reality as they serve purpose in keeping the world in one piece. Now lastly, the World Breaker. One giant holds a much different role of this type. The World Breaker is a destructive force that keeps any everlasting, so think treants, dragons, giants, vampires, fiends, celestials, from creating empires that would have full domain over everything. The World Breaker is also responsible for keeping other Gigants in check. So there's a few different ways of thinking about these guys. Obviously, as I said, the World Anchors, they help keep reality in check. They're stability, cosmic forces that might be on par with gods, probably worshipped by some circle of druids and giants as being that cosmologically important and worth respecting. They're definitely divine guardians, reality guardians, much like a storm giant, but they're kind of a layer above. They have just a responsibility to existence itself. And then lastly, the World Breaker. Think of this as the equalizer. If you're familiar with the legendary Godzilla films, how Godzilla's the apex, he's meant to keep the others in check, he's meant to keep them from running amok, he's meant to keep the peace, all that kind of good stuff. Well, your World Breaker does that too. So if there's a Mind Flare invasion, your World Breaker is going to keep them from destroying the rest of reality. If the vampires tried to blot out the sun, the World Breaker is going to have something to say about it. If your Leviathan and your Elder Phoenix are at war and it's causing fire across the lands and the seas to flood the skies, you're going to have the World Breaker saying something about it. Ultimately, where I would want this story with Rohit and his father to lead is, depending on timeline of the campaign, I would want to see one of two things. Either possibly have the death of one of your world anchors be at the hands of your BBEG. Have them vie for the power and domain of this world anchor and really throw something off. You can have it be whichever direction, whichever element combination you want, paint the picture, really sell it. Sell it as something that messes up the order of balance and chaos. And with that, your party goes to strike out against the BBEG and their new domain. Rohit or his father, whichever one your party takes more of a liking to, might join you guys, and eventually they might take that station of that new world anchor. They could have to deal with the World Breaker and his temperament as he is trying to resolve the problem. Obviously, you don't want the World Breaker to just come in and smash down your BBEG, so maybe come up with a plot point as to why he can't and why he needs the party, and maybe that being an issue of pride of him having to deal with creation races and allowing them to save the world that he's supposed to be protecting. But with all of that, I really just have to ask, what do you guys think? I know there's been a lot of talk about giants. It's funny. The Welsh DM published his video right as the same day I had scheduled mine, and then right as I go to begin scripting and recording this video, Pointy Hat publishes his video on giants, and here we are now. I did a two-parter. I plan on combining the two and then releasing them as an ultimate giant video, but I really want to know what you guys think. Is the seasonal story of Stone to Storm better? Is it still not up to snuff? Is there something more you'd like me to talk about with giants? I like them a good bit where I have them now, but I'm also not above maybe developing them further. With all that said, sincerely thank you guys for everything. I've grown so much faster than I thought I would have at this point, and I really continue to plan on chasing this dream. So, thanks for watching. Magpie responsibly. Thanks and thanks again.